Natural disasters of South Asia. What are common natural disasters we have in Alabama? In Alabama, you know that we experience tornadoes. There was the tornadoes that hit Tuscaloosa in April of 2011. There have been many deadly tornadoes in Alabama and the area surrounding Birmingham. Cahaba Heights has been hit. Hueytown's been hit before. Pleasant Grove. And so tornadoes are something that we kind of experience often in Alabama, and kind of you know the ideas of how you would prepare for a tornado. We have our severe weather drill in school, and you pretty much know that most of the time that's preparing you for a tornado, where we go to classrooms that don't have windows, that are near the center of the building, the band room, the show choir, the hallways that don't have a lot of windows. You can think in your house. Really, you all were born after, not that you were born after 2011, 2011, but you grew up a lot after 2011, and there's a major emphasis put on uh, getting a helmet, a mattress. Those were things that you knew you sort of should do before 2011 in Alabama, but it became a major point of emphasis. I think before that, everyone knew find a center part of your house that's window free. If you have a basement, go to a basement. Those types of suggestions. But the helmet and mattress have become even more essential. And so that's something you should be aware of. I mean, we experience that enough. Hurricanes impact coastal Alabama. It can impact areas northward as well. I mean, when coastal properties can be damaged, swept away, flooded. You know that if you've driven down to Gulf Shores or Orange Beach, that you've seen the houses built on stilts. And then they use all sorts of new techniques to sort of limit the wind damage that can occur as a result of hurricane. But those damages can impact all the way up to the Birmingham area and knock down trees and potentially cause flooding and things like that, even in Birmingham, pretty far north from the coast. Heavy rains and things like that. Natural disasters of Asia, you have tsunamis, typhoons, and earthquakes. I'll just knock out typhoons real quick. Those are earthquakes that occur in the Pacific Ocean, the western Pacific Ocean, or depending on how you look at it, the far east Pacific Ocean, but the ocean that borders Asia. And so those are hurricanes. But then the ones we're going to focus on today, tsunamis, earthquakes, and also a little bit on volcanoes. I believe that you probably know tsunamis come from the ocean. And essentially what's happening is an earthquake on the Earth's surface in the bottom of the ocean. And it causes a giant wave. But there could be other disturbances. And anytime you're taking a test about tsunamis, the most common cause of a tsunami is an earthquake. But volcanoes can cause them as well. But tsunamis are mostly caused by earthquakes that occur in the ocean. And they send a giant wave towards the shore. And then that wave floods out to a certain period, to a certain point, and causes the water level to rise and causes damages to buildings and flooding and destructions of homes. Anything that's very close to the coast is at risk. An earthquake is caused by the It's the shaking of the earth caused by the movement of tectonic plates. Adaptions are earthquake drills, earthquake-proof homes, strap-down heavy objects in buildings. One thing that you'll see, let me make sure it's covered in the next one. But yeah, so earthquake drills. Going in a classroom, getting under a desk. This is very common in possibly in California, but definitely in Japan, where students know when they hear the siren to get under the desk, hold on tight, and the building might shake a little bit. A lot of the buildings are now designed to withstand that shaking, but they stay there because what are they protecting themselves from? Obviously, if the building collapses, being under a desk isn't going to be quite enough in some cases. But if it's heavy objects in the room falling, then the desk can protect you. And so they do that. You know, we think of fire drills, we think of tornado drills. In Japan, you're going to do earthquake drills. Earthquake-proofing homes, one of the things that you'll see is that using an X shape in your earthquake designing and in your earthquake prevention of damage architecture, you're going to see cross-beam construction. Also, a lot of investment is made into the earlier detection, okay, so that you could evacuate a building or move to a safer building depending on your circumstances, if you know that an earthquake is coming. And the more precise you know where the earthquake is going to be, the more precise you can be in finding a location that will be safe. And strapping down heavy objects and buildings, all of those are things that people do to prepare for earthquakes. Japan is more prone to earthquakes because it's located on a fault line. It's in an area, a horseshoe area that encompasses the Pacific Ocean of North America as well as Asia, and it forms a horseshoe, and that is an area that has a lot of earthquake activity, a lot of volcanic activity, and is also at risk for tsunamis. Earthquake-resistant buildings. You can see here cross bracing, where you put an X here. That is going to protect the building. It distributes the weight of the building in a way that's better for the movement that goes along with the earthquake. Shear walls, concrete walls with steel bars in them to produce rocking movements. Shock absorbers, base isolation, absorbs tremors of earthquakes. Digging very deep into the ground and in the construction of the building can make it where you give the building a little bit of give to where it might look like it's shaking, but it's that diffusion of the impact of the earthquake is going to cause the building not to snap and break. And that's what the cross beam earthquakes do as well as shock absorbers, giving the building some give. I think about that with like if you're standing still and someone comes and just, rough houses with you and pushes you, you're going to collapse, right? Your body's going to collapse, and if it doesn't, you're more likely to fall down. If you're standing straight up, if your feet are spread out and you're in like a position that you would use in athletics, soccer, baseball, basketball, football, kind of bent a little bit, and someone pushes you, you easily shift your weight back and forth. And that's how you want to build buildings in these areas where you know there's going to be impact, because the straighter you're standing, if someone comes to knock you down, the easier of a target you're going to be. And that's the same concept here with these earthquake-resistant buildings. The Ring of Fire, a horseshoe that ranges from the South Pacific up to the Southern Asia to Northeast Asia and runs along the west coast of North America all the way down the majority of the coast of South America. The area is home to tectonic plate boundaries that cause earthquakes and volcanoes. So this area is an area that you're known to have that risk of volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis, and people are aware of that, and they do gather information and determine what they can do to make their area safer based on the information that they have. A typhoon is a tropical storm in the western Pacific Ocean. Only difference from a hurricane is its location. That's it. It's just the same. The winds are spinning and all that, and the damage can be caused in the same way. Emergency kits, windows that can easily be covered, have alternative safety spot, evacuate, have an elevated home. Tsunamis, a long and high wave caused by an earthquake or other disturbance. Adaptions, the tsunami alert sirens, practice evacuation routes, and prepare for an evacuation plan. How can you prepare for a natural disaster? Drills, reinforced buildings, strict building codes, building houses away from the coast, and more. In a take-home message from this quick, brief unit that we did here is that when you're close to the coast, you need the strict building codes, and in particular there you need to build your houses on stilts. You need to prepare them for water that may be coming, however you're going to do that. As a result of earthquakes, strict building codes are important. China experienced many earthquakes throughout its history, including the 70s. And in the 1970s, they after they had a massively destructive earthquake, they changed up their building code and made it very strict. But this is a key thing about public policy, and when they did that, they did not actually enforce the building code. So on paper, people thought they were much safer than they actually were. And so when another earthquake occurred in the future, the damage was very similar to the one that happened in the 1970s. And what that revealed is that they actually had not improved the building. They hadn't used the architecture. They hadn't used the shock absorbers that they were required to. They just didn't enforce it. When it comes to tsunamis, warning sirens are very important. Because in a tsunami situation, even different than necessarily an earthquake, you have the chance to get to a higher elevation, to get away from the coast. And so if you think about, if you're in a crowded area, you said evacuate this area in a minute, chaos would happen, and there would be a lot of people just left hung out to dry in that situation without any better situation for that 1 minute warning. But if you gave people a 15-minute warning, a few more people get to safety. A 30-minute warning, a few more people get to safety. An hour warning, and a lot of people get to safety, especially if you have evacuation routes prepared, which they do. So as they increase the warning time and they improve their evacuation routes, if you can imagine driving down to Florida and you had an evacuation of Florida, you'd take all the interstate in both directions and make it head out of Florida. And the same thing can be done in these areas. Evacuation routes, drills, early warning, the reinforced buildings for earthquakes. Remember the shear walls, the X architecture, and absorbent poles that allow the buildings to move a little bit. So those are ways that you can prepare for these things that happen along the ring of fire. Now you can see in here there were several videos to watch. I want you to click on those and watch them. I'll click right here on this ready for tsunamis. A tsunami can kill, injure people, and damage or destroy buildings and infrastructure as waves come in and go out. A tsunami is a series of enormous ocean waves caused by earthquakes, underwater landslides, volcanic eruptions, or asteroids. Tsunamis can travel 20 to 30 miles per hour and have waves from 10 feet to 100 feet. They can cause flooding, disrupt transportation, power, communications, and the water supply. They can happen anywhere along the U.S. coast. Coasts that border the Pacific Ocean or Caribbean have the greatest risk. And then if you're under a tsunami warning, these are the things they would advise you to do. And this is us.gov. First, protect yourself from earthquake. Drop cover, then hold on. Get to high ground as far inland as possible. Be alert to signs of a tsunami, such as sudden rise or draining of ocean waters. Listen to emergency information and alerts. Evacuate. Do not wait. Leave as soon as you see any natural signs of a tsunami or receive an official tsunami warning. If you're on a boat, go out to sea. You don't want to go towards the coast. You want to go away from the coast if you're in a boat and you can see that a tsunami is coming. And so there's more information to read on here, and you can read that as well. But know this, the main cause of a tsunami is an earthquake. Volcanic eruptions can cause that to occur. Earthquakes are the leading cause of that. And then because it's on YouTube, and this video I guess will end up on YouTube, but you can click on this video for yourself and see that as well. So best of luck to you as you're preparing for the test. Again, I hate that we're not together. I really do. I'm missing it. The stuff with the coronavirus, I'm missing teaching about that. And just the political versus the health issues there. But good luck on this. Finish strong. I'll post a review tomorrow. So good luck.